Hello and welcome to a late Tuesday night edition of the Managing Madrid podcast. At the time of this recording, we had Fede Valverde in Uruguay blitz past Venezuela 4-1. Currently, Brazil are up 1-0 against Paraguay. This is just before halftime. Vinicius Jr. is the only one of the Brazilian contingent that we have that's starting in that game. Militao is already back home, and Casemiro and Rodrigo are on the bench for that one. So we'll see. This will take us into a lot of different directions because we don't have a typical lone tracker this week. We're going to talk about the transfer market. We're going to talk about theoretical lineups versus athletic and beyond, given the fact that we're missing some attacking players plus Ferland Mendy for the foreseeable future. And we're going to talk about the transfer window and the quietness of it, if you will. And also, if you go to managingmadrid.com right now, there is a flurry of features. Mehdi Hassan had a nice piece today where he discussed kind of like where Real Madrid are able to coax their opponents into losing possession. Had some nice visuals on that one. Arvind has a analysis on Maite Oroz and how her new role under Toril has kind of changed the way she's played, and she had a really good game against Sevilla. I have a feature about our Champions League odds. And last but not least, Matt Wiltsey's article, Age-Defying Luka Modric Will Become the Norm Rather Than the Exception. And he looks at some science and how footballers might age in the future. So that will actually be, Matt's article will be a talking point at some point during this podcast. Matt, where do we start? I guess the transfer window. Are you surprised that we were so quiet?
No, not really. I mean, I think we know that the January window is always really difficult to get your transfers right. And I think probably our greatest ever success has to be Marcelo, by far as the best ever January transfer window. Maybe that's a separate pod where we rank our January transfers, but it's just hard to find the quality. It's hard to find somebody that will really add to the value of your squad. And I mean, we think back, just think to some of the transfers that happened in this window. I guess the only one who would say that would upgrade our squad is Vlahovic. And obviously, if we're chasing Mbappe and Haaland and you have Benzema, it doesn't really make sense to bring him in. So, can you think of any other transfers that happened this window that you would be like, oh man, Real Madrid, that guy Real Madrid would have been at least good enough for our squad?
Well, Vlahovic would upgrade our bench, with all due respect to a great, great striker who we really are high on from watching Fiorentina week in, week out. He's not, I don't see him I just don't know where he fits as a starter unless you shift the formation. Yeah. I really wanted Tchouaméni, and I don't think he would become a clear-cut starter, obviously. I think he's kind of one of those players that can rotate in and out of the team. You wouldn't suffer a drop-off if you had to play him over Casemiro. I personally would probably even, just knowing his profile, what I've seen from him with the French national team and some at Monaco, his analytics are through the roof. You could actually start him in big Champions League games against high-pressing teams, which, that's just my take. Carlo Ancelotti, for him to deviate from Casemiro at all is another thing. But the other thing is, I kind of tweeted about this, and I'm going to write something more about this. It's interesting when you look at what Real Madrid decided to do this transfer window, some of the more important positions to prioritize. And to be clear, I don't think you can really upgrade the starting lineup much unless you buy a dominant right-wing superstar, which we know is coming. But to upgrade the starting lineup is pretty difficult. Let's be clear. I mean, you listened to the podcast we did with Dre. I wrote about it a few days ago. The starting lineup is filled with world-class players who would start almost anywhere in Europe. It's hard to upgrade it. What we really do want to see is a backup right back and a backup center back. And a backup right back, what I mean by that is also someone who would start a lot. So someone who would not just be good enough for a backup slot, but actually good enough to start a lot given Carvajal's injury record. I think the club looked at those two positions and were like, we can kind of, sort this out through free agency. There is a deep pool of free agents at the center back and right back position this summer. I think they probably tabled it until then and decided not to splash money. One of the positions that does also become important to fill is the left back position when Marcelo leaves at the end of the season. But that's also something you can also kind of table as well, because Marcelo himself, once he leaves, he starts to create salary room as well as Isco and Bale, those guys all leaving. Once they leave, you create more salary room for next summer, and you have the buyback option on Reguilon if you really don't trust Miguel. So there are options there. With the defensive midfielder slot, a few things entered my mind, Matt. One is that it's clear that Ancelotti doesn't really see any of our current central midfielders as defensive midfield options. Fede Valverde, no. He's tried Camavinga there a couple times and it hasn't worked. He himself, in his own words, has said, if Casemiro doesn't play, we don't really have anything like him. We probably need to shift to a double pivot. I think he's going to try to reinvent Camavinga, but I don't think he's going to have much success with it. And also, I think the fact that they really went for Tchouaméni, and it really didn't work out because of his price tag, it meant that they really rate that guy really highly, and they see him as a natural successor. And also the fact that, and I was skeptical of the Kessié rumors from Milan because I don't understand it at all, to be quite honest. But given that Lucas's source confirmed that he would have been looked at as a plan B, told me something else, that like maybe they really do want a backup defensive midfielder. But like, you've watched Kessié a lot. Can you just explain why that does make no sense? Like, you and I haven't talked about this. Are you going to shock me right now and say we should sign him? I just don't see it at all.
No, he's an interesting player. He does the little things right. Like, he keeps it simple. He keeps possession. He's built like a brick. So he uses his body really well. He can win possession back, but he's not like Casemiro. Like, Casemiro covers a lot of ground. Casemiro's really athletic. Casemiro reads the game, and Casemiro's a single. Kessie's not a single pivot. He's I mean, Milan play a 4-2-3-1, so he plays in a double pivot. He just keeps it simple. Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess he would be fine, but he wouldn't be like a signing that really excites anyone. I think he'd just be a stopgap for a couple of years until Casemiro maybe declines he's now 30, or he's turning 30 this year if he's not already 30. And I think Kessie would just be a stopgap backup until we find that next player, or if we eventually change formations and don't play with a Casemiro type midfielder anymore. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. It sounded there like you've kind of ruled out the Tchouaméni deal altogether. I don't know if that's. I know the price tag's high, and I know we probably wouldn't go 80 mil. But if Tchouaméni comes out and says Real Madrid is the only club for me, then if he narrows that bidding war and Monaco decide that they have to negotiate with us, or something happens, we wait another year, and his contract goes down another year, and the value goes down, then it's still possible. So I wouldn't rule it out completely.
I'm not ruling it out completely. I obviously, goes without saying, I just ruled it out for this window. Anything can happen. We're still going to be interested in him. I think we're going to be linked with him. And that's part of the reason, and his contract ends in 2024, and he's young. He's only 22. But that's part of the reason why the Kessié thing was just shocking to me for a variety of reasons. One, it was like, there's no, this guy is not, he just doesn't excite me at all. Like, all the things you mentioned, that's the point I was making. Did you think the Tchouaméni deal was for January? I just assumed automatically they were going there to negotiate for the summer. Well, either way, I mean,
yeah,
they were trying to get a deal done before the deadline day, I think. Whether he comes over now or comes over later is a different story. Back to Kessié. I don't know. I feel bad. I just want to keep circling back to grilling this guy. He's fine. I never was really impressed with him when I saw him at Milan. Watching Brahim play this season, he's prone to errors. But the one thing I just want to say about him, I don't understand why he even makes sense at all. He's not defensively. First of all, him versus Casemiro, it's not even a comparison. Forget about it. Casemiro's head and shoulders above. It's not even close. It's not even. We're not even talking about the same level here. But also, given the fact that he's not a single pivot anchor and he's more of a double pivot guy, why would you sign him if you already have Camavinga and Fede for those positions? And by the way, Kessier's biggest weakness, which is his progressive passing, is exactly what is missing in the Camavinga profile. So we just need someone who could complement that a little bit better. He's a poor man's Camavinga to me. I mean, maybe that's unfair. Like, he's a little bit older, maybe slightly more polished or whatever. And Camavinga we still haven't seen his best yet. But we all kind of believe in his upside and stuff. And his player profile is great. I just didn't see it. And also, I'd probably rather just, if it came down to splashing money on him, I'd rather probably just stick with Camavinga, Fede, and even give Blanco more minutes.
Yeah, for that. I mean, I guess from Real Madrid's perspective, to try and draw some rationale, it's a free agent, a Champions League level player, and yes, he doesn't fit as a pure defensive midfielder, but he is more of a deeper midfielder that could, even if we had to adjust formation, could give you a little bit more protection in midfield. So I guess that's the rationale, but I'm with you. Like, I don't know. I don't think it really excites anybody. But I guess my initial question to you was, of the signings that were actually made in January by teams, is there anyone besides Vlahovic, who we both agree like would just be a bench signing, so not really worth it? Is there anyone that you think is actually quality enough to form as part of Real Madrid's squad? Like, forget price tag, forget anything,
or starter,
just like form as part of the squad.
General squad.
Squad, not starter, just general squad.
Can I flip it to you for a sec? Like, what's your answer on this?
I don't think so. I think Vlahovic is probably the only one. I don't know really anything about Zakaria besides the couple times we played Borussia Mönchengladbach last season in the Champions League, but he's the other player that Juventus signed. Like, other than that, I mean, none of the quote unquote big teams in Europe really made a dramatic signing that you think, oh man, we missed out on someone, or this guy could have added quality.
I don't think so either. And I'm thinking about realistic signings. Like, I'm not talking about, like, we're not shoehorning Mbappe and Haaland into this discussion right now. I don't think so because, like I said earlier, a lot of the signings that I am intrigued with in terms of really, really useful players that could help us. I think they become free agents this summer. Like, I'm talking about like a Mazraoui type figure from Ajax for the right back position. If you wanted to sign some security, like an Azpilicueta as a stopgap, while we figure out the right back slot, he can even go to left back. He can play center back sometimes. Versatile. Again, free agents. These are very low risk signings. You think about people like Sula. You think about people like Ginter. All those guys are going to be free agents. I mean, Rudiger, that's cooled down a little bit now, but. So, like, right now, no. And this is why the winter window has never been our thing. It's never been, like, apart from like the odd ones like the Marcelo Higuains and stuff. It's incredibly rare for us to splash in the window. Brahim was a winter signing, but again, that's a minor deal. What do you think about this Endrick kid? Do you have strong opinions either way?
So, I just think. I don't really like what Marca did yesterday, where
the interview.
And I actually, the interview. Like, it's too much for me. For a 15-year-old, it's too much. Like, just even if Real Madrid, like, I have no issue with Real Madrid trying to lock him up, signing him, even if it's whatever it is, 30 million and whatever it may be, but. Just to, like, they've put him on the cover 3 times. He's 15 years old. Like, now the interview, it's just, why do we always do this to young players? It's like, this kid is 15. You know how many players are the best player at 15 and then are just nothing by the time they become 19, 20? Like, I'm not saying that's going to happen to this kid, but there's still a very good chance. And, like, why would you put so much pressure? Why would you just, yeah, man, I don't agree with it. And I just, they went all the way to Brazil, went to his house to interview him. I just think it was too much. I don't know if I'm being over dramatic here, but I don't know. I
Well,
don't agree with it.
it's journalism and marketing. So it's what it is. Um,
Yeah.
they don't care about what happens to the kid, obviously.
Yeah, they don't.
I'm scared to like I've been texting back and forth with his agent today. I was trying to land something. Now I'm worried if I do, you're gonna like shun me and you're gonna cast me aside and call me a Marca guy. I don't know anything about this kid. I don't care what you say. You don't like you as in like anyone out there. No one knows anything about this kid.
Yeah.
Like it's nobody. We've all seen the same YouTube compilations. It's impressive. That means nothing to me. It doesn't show any context. He's 15. Even if there was context, we still don't know because he's 15. I don't know anything about him. I don't know how he's going to pan out. Seems like a good kid, and I hope he pans out. By all accounts, it seems like he's going to be a Real Madrid player soon. From a PR perspective, I don't think he's going to give an interview with Marca and just say all these Real Madrid swooning things and I love Vinicius and I love Real Madrid if he's going to go to Barca or something. So I feel like we're not far from him. So do you disagree with hyping him up? Do you disagree with a signing of
No,
somebody
no.
like him?
I'm no, I think like, hey, if you can lock up, I'm always a proponent of that. Like we've seen it work to great success. Say what you will even about Odegaard, who we signed at like 15, 16. Like, yeah, he only played a handful of games for Real Madrid, but we made 40 million off of him after signing him for peanuts. And I mean, that's a success. Like, end of. That's a success right there. And then you look at Rodrigo, Vinicius, Reinier, like you get 2 of the 3 right. Even if you get a bunch of these wrong, I mean, we've talked about this before and how it's just worth it to invest in these young players. Even if you get them wrong, if you get 1 right for every 6 you get wrong, if you get a Vinicius who's developing a Ballon d'Or type talent, it's worth it. And so, yeah, no, I'm all for locking him up. Absolutely. I don't know. I don't agree with like putting him on the cover 3 times, interviewing him, like
Was it really
mounting all
3
this
times?
pressure. Yeah, he's been on the cover 3 times already.
Well, he must be just his head must be exploding right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I think Vinicius being as successful as he's been so far probably has given them confidence to go out and get more talented Brazilian kids because one of them has really panned out and is worth every penny. And like, look, I know Rodrigo, poor guy, gets compared to Vinicius all the time, and he didn't have the same luck that Vinicius had in terms of timing and also the position. He's playing out of position, not playing out of position, but he's not playing his preferred position. I feel bad for him, but like, he's actually a really good squad player. Like just because he hasn't reached Vinicius heights doesn't mean he's a failure either. I don't think. Like I actually like. I like what I've seen from him. I think if he gets going and he gets rhythm and he can stay healthy, I think he's going to be a really good player. So even he has been a pretty good success in my opinion. Like maybe my bar is too low. I don't know, but I like him as a squad player.
I think he's been. Yeah, I agree. I think he's definitely been a success. Like there's no way you can say otherwise. If you sign a kid 17, 18 and he comes in, he's not only a good squad player, but he's starting games for Real Madrid at 20, 21. Like he contributed right away, even at 18, 19. And so, yeah, for sure. And there's still room for him to grow.
What's up, YouTube? This is Kiyan Sobani. Wanted to thank you for watching that video or listening to that one. Rather, that wasn't an actual video thing. That was more of an audio clip from last night's podcast where Matt and I, over on patreon.com/managingmadrid, we discussed, in addition to all that stuff we just heard, we also discussed lineups versus Athletic and sports science and the evolution of players, players like Modric who are playing into their late 30s, and how that might become the norm in 10, 20 years, and where we're going with sports science and nutrition and prolonging the careers of athletes, and also revisiting perhaps how Florentino hands out contracts to those above 30. That is all over on patreon.com/managingmadrid. I also wanted to extend you guys an invite to London, UK, our only stop there, probably ever. I don't know if we're coming back to London. I think there's a couple cities where we'll go back to regularly now that we've kind of seen it. LA is one, Toronto is one. UK, I don't know. We're going to do regular podcasts in Madrid, but the UK, I don't think we're going to come back. So if you want to come see me, as well as Sam Sharp, Christopher McCormick, and Ben Hayward, special guests, and probably other special guests that we haven't announced yet as a surprise, that's happening on February 13th. I have linked it in the caption of this video. You can also just comment or whatever if you're having trouble booking your spot, but please come see us. We'd love to meet you. And also see you over on patreon.com/managingmadrid for more bonus content. And Hala Madrid.